Hello, this is Cherokee Billie, and I'm going to be reading you an excerpt from the first chapter of my book, Heavenly Seduction, which you can purchase at my website, CherokeeBillie.com. I hope you enjoy it, and please let me know what you think. Chapter 1. Seduced. His broad, confident smile and brown-rimmed glasses caught my attention. I paused before getting in my car to see if he was headed in my direction. The refreshing March breeze scattered the leaves on this afternoon in 1978. I quickly put my shopping bags in the trunk. I didn't know whether he was a Jesus freak or someone who hit on every 26-year-old female for a date. I watched him before I climbed in my car. My gut reaction told me to lock the doors. I watched him move closer. Oh no, here comes one of those Jesus freaks, I thought. His big smile and the way he was zeroing in on me gave me every indication he was a religious fanatic wanting to convert me. Jesus freaks, as I thought of them, were very easy to spot in the 1970s, especially because they were every place I went in Los Angeles. By the time he reached my Mercury Monarch, I was already inside with the doors locked. I had sized him up to be maybe 30 years old, 5'10", and 160 pounds. As he ran, he exuded confidence. His manner of dress was very sexual. His shirt was unbuttoned almost down to his waist, and he had on a necklace. He had reddish light brown curly hair that was not too long but not too short, just slightly below the ears. He carried a man's leather pouch slung over his shoulder, and he had on tight-fitting pants, his feet clad in boots. He finally reached my car and started pounding his fist on the driver's side window while waving some pamphlets he held in his hand. I rolled down the window slightly to say politely, "I don't want anything to do with a Jesus freak." He may have looked quite sexy, but I wanted him to know my distaste for religious fanatics. The stranger said, "I'm not a Jesus freak," as he held up pamphlets that were sexual in nature. They showed the earth and moon making love in a cute, comical way. "Do you think a Jesus freak would distribute literature like this?" "No," I replied. "I guess not." I could feel my resistance waning. "My name's Gideon. I work for a Christian group raising money for homeless children and recovering drug addicts. Would you be willing to help us out with a donation?" He smiled as I took $1 from my purse and slipped it to him through the crack in the window. In return, he gave me several pamphlets as well as a small book for me to read. Leaning into the window, he said, "Hey, what's your name?" "Billy." "Do you think I could come over to your place and play you some of my music? You'd get a better understanding of my message." I normally would have said no, but I found this man intriguing. There was definitely something different about him. Having been previously married to a musician, I knew Gideon had found my weakness. I gave him directions and my telephone number. Of course, it wasn't uncommon during the 1960s and 1970s to meet total strangers and immediately strike up friendships. "Would you let me see your eyes?" he asked as he was about to leave. I removed my sunglasses. "I knew you had beautiful eyes, and green, cool." He walked away, bouncing with each step, and opened a door to an old beat-up Plymouth. My impression had been Jesus freaks had money and were preying on the public for donations to better their own existence. I began to think maybe this man might be sincere, and, well, he was attractive. When I returned home in the afternoon, I spoke by telephone with one of my girlfriends, Dana. "Are you out of your mind to let a Jesus freak in your house?" she asked. "No, he's harmless. Don't worry," I assured her. This was the year the Hillside Strangler, the media's name for Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Bono, were kidnapping, raping, torturing, and killing women from late 1977 to early 1978 in the hills above Los Angeles, so Dana and I always left each other pertinent information as to our whereabouts. I gave her Gideon's contact telephone number, located on the back of the pamphlets. After Dana and I finished, I started reading the pamphlets still in my hand. The one Gideon had showed me with the earth and moon making love was on top, so I started to read. It was entitled Sex Works by Moses David, and I found his writing about Jesus different than anything I had ever read. Here's a quotation. "He's like a lover. What else matters? He brings you love. He makes your life and gives you happiness and all you ever wanted and more. You don't know why, but just to look at him turns you on. He's your electricity. He's what turns you on. He's what gives you such a charge. You don't care who he is or what he is or where he came from, as long as he keeps loving you like this and makes you so happy and takes such good care of you." What a strange concept, I thought as I finished reading. I have never envisioned Jesus as a turn-on before. This writing spoke as Jesus was a personal lover. I wasn't a religious person, however I had been brought up as a Jehovah's Witness. My parents were not Jehovah's Witnesses, but they believed the private Bible studies would give me a solid religious background. By the age of 7, I was going door to door with the elders, distributing the Watchtower and the Awake. During the 1950s through the 1970s, Jehovah's Witnesses taught Jesus was God's Son, but not a divine being. Jehovah, God, was to be worshipped with no middleman. Their teachings also stated only 144,000 who were faithful and dedicated to Jehovah would join him in heaven. Hell did not exist. If an individual is not among the chosen 144,000, death was death and that was it. As an adult, I often asked, what's the point of worshiping a God who is going to condemn me to eternal nothingness? This bewilderment left me an atheist at the age of 23. Gideon brought his guitar that night to my mobile home. He strummed away while singing songs of happiness and joy. I began to feel emotional within. He started whistling like a bird during the song, and I loved how he could let himself go with no fear or feeling like a fool, so very free. "Did you get a chance to read any of the pamphlets I gave you today?" he asked. "Yes, I did, and I found them quite interesting," I answered. "Have you asked Jesus to come in your heart?" "No," I answered. "Pray with me to ask Jesus to come in your life so you too can know the joy of the Lord." Why not, I figured. After all, I really wasn't serious about all of this. It was just something different to do that particular evening. I wanted to see what Gideon was up to. I didn't think Jesus cared one way or another about me. I was also looking for a unity I had lacked for many years in my own life. I lost my place, folks. Sorry about that. Having always felt like an outsider and never part of anything significant, I wanted to experience the joy Gideon seemed to radiate. I was lonely. I had become somewhat of an outcast among my friends who were still partying very heavily, whereas I decided to quit using pot and pills 6 months earlier. It was time to move on from adolescence. Maybe I wouldn't openly admit it, but each man I met, I'd find myself sizing him up as a potential husband. I was looking to settle down and be married. Gideon took my hand and said, "Repeat after me." I followed his instructions and said the words he outlined. I repeated the prayer as Gideon had dictated. When we finished, I asked him, "Is that all there is?" I personally was hoping a bolt of lightning wouldn't come up through the ceiling, striking me dead, since I didn't believe in this. "Yes," he said, "you are now saved. You are now a child of God and will live with him in heaven." "That was certainly easy. What's next?" I asked. Gideon said something that startled me. "I want to show you the love of God." "What's that?" I was unnerved by the remark because I had an inkling of what he meant. "I want to share my body with you." His face was serious as he spoke. There was no sign of flirtation or amorous behavior. I was stunned and wasn't sure of how to respond. "You mean have sex with me?" "By sharing my body, I'm showing you the love Jesus has for you. He wants you to know how much he truly loves you, and I am his instrument to demonstrate his love." "Isn't that considered fornication?" I knew some clauses in the Bible. "The only fornication which matters to God is becoming part of the worldly system." He said this with such authority and confidence that I was ready to believe him. But I was taught sex without marriage was wrong. It was not like I hadn't participated in sex with different lovers. I just wanted to know why this so-called Christian was promoting sex without marriage. Gideon replied, "That's an old church teaching. It doesn't apply to the teachings being sent to God's prophet of today. His new church. God only cares about our showing love to one another. God's only law is love. Nothing else matters." What a unique come-on. I have never heard this approach to get me to have sex. This man was really going to take me on a trip unlike anyone else before, and I was going willingly. "Okay, let's go to my bedroom," I said. I figured this guy hadn't been laid in a long time, and I would give him a good time. What if Jesus was in bed with us? This would be my donation to his Christian cause. Well, now you've gotten a taste of my book. It is quite a revelation and a shocking story, and I hope you will buy it. Please go to my website, www.CherokeeBillie, and go to my store, and you can purchase this book at a minimal cost. You will find it enlightening and quite unusual. Thank you for listening.